Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Today's a good conversation. I don't know anybody. I don't know a woman who will not relate to today's episode. Not one. Not one. Like, I'm doing a quick Rolodex in my brain of all the women that I know deeply, and none of us have been unaffected by diet culture, wellness culture, body image, the whole idea of whatever our American beauty standard is and trying to fit it. And do you have anybody who's completely healthy in this regard?
No.
I don't either.
Not at all.
I don't think I have one. Maybe you got
maybe.
one?
Maybe I have one who's like athletic because she loves it.
Oh. I don't understand that.
We don't have that in common.
No.
Yeah, maybe.
What's your history here?
Oh, God. Disaster.
Same.
Like from, elementary school.
When is the first time that you remember thinking, I wish my body was different, whatever that meant for you?
Probably third grade.
It's pretty early.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were thinking?
Just that I looked different and that was bad.
How did you feel like you looked different?
Just bigger.
Oh, you felt bigger.
Just a bigger body. And also, my people are heavy. Like
you're dense.
We're dense. We don't have bird bones,
Yeah, same. My people are the same.
And so like the first time you knew what you weighed.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just instantly knew, well, that's too much.
My gosh. I remember in 8th grade, back in those days, we had to get a physical before we started school every year. I think maybe it's still like that. And right before 8th grade, whatever, a week or two before, and I went to the doctor and did the whole thing. And that was the first year I had ever gone over 100 pounds. And I remember, I'm 51 years old, and I remember that I was 108 pounds walking into 8th grade. And I just remember feeling like I didn't want anyone to know that.
Yeah.
That I was in a 3-digit body. And I was taller than most of my friends already in 8th grade. 108.
Yeah, it's weird. I wonder where it came from. And it's interesting like where it came from at that young of an age, because I was not engaging with like teen magazines, when I was in the 5th grade, but some of those memories are so real. It's like it was yesterday.
It's so true.
In 5th grade, I remember just honestly, it felt like despair when my pencil wore down, because going up to the pencil sharpener at the front of the class, like the movement you have to do to like turn the thing, you're sort of hunched over and everybody could see your bra line, which means everyone knew you needed a bra.
Oh,
like,
wait, what grade did you get a bra?
Probably 5th, because this is when I remember being mortified that I had a bra on and I had to go sharpen my pencil. And like another one that feels like it was yesterday was the first time I went skiing with like youth group in high school, and they weigh you or you have to know what you weigh for your skis.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this number's too high and I need longer skis than my friends. And so even people like on the ski lift will be able to look up and see that I have long skis, and that means I'm fat. Like just insanity.
And where did we get all that? Because you're right. Like, of course, it was pre-social media.
Yeah. But still.
We got it. That's how. Also, don't forget, I don't know how your mom was doing. I'm not blaming my mom, because my mom was also a function of her culture. But like in the 80s, my mom was like jazzercise, aerobics.
Yes.
Like she was very much a part of fitness culture. 80s fitness culture was a whole vibe.
Yeah. Weight Watchers and jazzercise.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't remember my mom doing Weight Watchers. And of course, Jana. I mean, like my mom was never talking weird about our bodies. Like she didn't, that wasn't the language in her house, but I do remember watching her do all her exercise classes and go up to the church and have her jazzercise. And we just got it.
And even if people were doing it for health reasons, to be strong, like to remain athletic, we still viewed it through a lens of shame.
For sure. And also the particular diet culture that we grew up in the 80s and 90s was this incredibly small, skinny, lean look.
Yeah.
Where this is not to say we have exited the mess, but there's a bit more of an emphasis right now on strength, on weight training, on muscle mass, and which equates to like bone density and longevity. Like it has it feels like it's got a bit more of a health through line to it. But back then, it was like, get skinny, eat margarine.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what a mess. All the time, because I talk about bodies, of course, a lot. I talked about a lot in Awake. We talk about on this show. I want to be doing better than I am in this category.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it. I want to be like, I have really worked on this and I no longer think about my weight. And it is a lie.
It's a lie. And
it's not true.
We get into it in this conversation.
Yeah.
That's why I really appreciate having Chrissy on, because,
Yeah.
There's so many people talking about bodies and waking up to these facets in our life that control us. But I think this conversation goes in a really different direction.
It does.
Than we're used to. And the truth of it is, it's all intersected.
Yeah.
Like body liberation actually naturally leads to conversations about white supremacy.
It does.
Conversations about public health.
And if you don't think it does, it does. And you're going to hear it in this conversation. It's not even a complicated leap.
No.
It's an unbroken connective tissue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something that we have honestly not been privy to.
Yeah.
We've been siloed.
Sure, of course.
And focused on how we look.
Yeah.
In our certain types of bodies.
And to Chrissy's point, and I don't want to steal her thunder, but when we follow the rules of diet culture and shove our bodies into the form that is prescribed, we get rewarded because our bodies are white. Mm-hmm. And so that pushes us into the prescriptive, white-centric American beauty standard, where even if a Black woman does the same thing, her skin's still Black. Mm-hmm. That still puts her in a marginalized body, no matter what shape it is.
Right.
So anyway, okay, we're going to get to all this. Like, this conversation is really good. And you guys are going to love Chrissy. If you do not already follow her or know about her work, let me tell you about her a little bit. She's an author. She's a speaker. She is a former strength coach, and her work has helped so many women name, and this is where you're going to hook in probably, what has always felt a little bit off about wellness culture. So if that's you, if you're like, I cannot keep up with this shit. I cannot keep up with the wellness trends and even the competing ideologies.
Yeah.
This is a great episode for you. Chrissy is the author of The Body Liberation Project, and her work challenges shame-based health narratives, which Amy and I were just talking about, and offers something more honest, more sustainable, more true, which is liberation and consent and care. And it's kind of a relief even just to have the conversation, to be honest. And so this is for anyone who is tired of trying to fix your body and you are ready to listen to it instead. And so we're just delighted to have her, and we know you're going to love her as much as we did. So welcome the incredible Chrissy King. Chrissy, welcome to the show. So happy to meet you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
we have such like an awesome job because we just constantly get to meet powerful, smart women. Like, and we
Yes.
call it work.
I love that.
Like, look at our job we're doing, having these high level conversations with the smartest and best people. We're just really glad you're in our orbit. I wonder if you would, just before we dive into a lot of your work, if you could talk to us a little bit about just you, high level it for us. Like, this is my deal, and this is where I live, and these are my people, and kind of this is my arc of my life. And then we're going to drill in.
Absolutely. So my name is Chrissy. I reside in Brooklyn, New York. I am originally from Wisconsin. I've been in Brooklyn for like 7 years. I moved here because I decided I didn't want to have kids, got divorced, and said, let's just do something different. And that was what brought me to Brooklyn. I'm a writer. I write a lot about body liberation. I have a background in fitness coaching, and that's kind of like how I made my way to what I'm doing now. So a lot of my work is around body liberation, but through the lens of gender and sexuality and white supremacy and racism and how that affects our ability to feel good in our bodies. And I also do a lot of work around just creating an inclusive wellness space, which is not popular these days, but just as important as it was when it was popular. And so I still do a lot of work in that realm too. And honestly, I think as I continue on writing and doing more, I think what I see in my work is just like liberation work all around, like beyond just the body. How do we live liberated lives? And I specifically, although my message can be for anyone, I specifically write and speak to women.
Oh my gosh, I have a million things to say and ask about everything that you just said. Not the least of which is Wisconsin to Brooklyn is a choice.
Oh my gosh, that's a big
That
choice.
is a choice.
It is.
Do you love it?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. And it's so interesting though, because it is a big, I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I lived there until I was 33, and then I moved here. Just one day I was like, yeah, I'm moving. And 2 weeks later I was living here. Big,
oh my
wild
gosh.
adjustment.
By yourself. I'm
Yes.
going.
I had one friend here. Well, I had two friends here actually. I had two friends here and a kind of work colleague. And I was like, yeah, I'm going. I'm going to figure it out. It's a big culture shock, but I love it so much. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. I feel like I think that I don't view my life as an unconventional life, but like in the Midwest, it is considered an unconventional life.
For sure.
And I feel like I'd be very isolated and just having a very much a different experience if I was still there. So I love Brooklyn. Yeah.
I love that story.
I know.
I'm very drawn to that. I'm just very drawn to your work in general. We're really going to get into what liberation looks like in the context of your work. I just wonder if this is located in a real personal setting. I'm curious if there was a moment, I don't know, for you in your life, in your body, where you realized that the way that you were taught and or conditioned, sometimes it's both overt and covert, to relate to your body just not only wasn't serving you, but probably never served you.
Absolutely. I feel like I have two moments that I'm like, oh, like the thing started to click. The first moment was when I was very steeped in diet culture. I was working as a trainer. I was hyper focused on macros and calories and never missing a workout. I was in the smallest body I'd ever had as an adult. I was also the strongest I'd ever been as an adult. And I was also the most miserable I'd ever been. I had the worst relationship with body image. I had the worst relationship with exercise. It was terrible. And I had this moment, I was still married at the time, where I went on like a little weekend trip with my in-laws, which was my worst nightmare, not because of my in-laws, but because I could not control every single thing that I was going to eat and I was going to do. And so I remember that I did my best to pack meals for the entire weekend.
Oh my gosh.
And I like had them in a cooler, and we went to a water park. And so we were at the water park and we like took a break for lunch, and I decided to stay in the car and eat this little sad meal that I had packed that had been in the cooler all day. And my partner and in-laws at the time, they were just trying to be supportive. So they were like, they asked the restaurant if I could bring my food in, and they said them I had like dietary restrictions, and the restaurant obliged. But like, it took me like 5 minutes. I had a little wrap. It was very small. So it took me like 5 minutes to eat. I joined everybody in the restaurant, and I was sitting there watching everyone order whatever they want. The food, and the scent, and it's wafting through my nostrils. And I'm just like, I'm miserable because everyone's here enjoying this delicious food, and I can't enjoy myself even
Wow.
though I've achieved this like quote unquote dream body.
Yeah.
And I think that was like a real moment where I was like, oh, actually, I could like be chasing thinness for the rest of my life. I'm still going to be unhappy. And so I
Hmm.
think that was the first moment that I was like, oh, I have to like address something because like shrinking my body is not the thing that's going to make me feel whole and complete.
Mm.
So that was a big moment. That was one. And then after that, I started to try to like delve into body image and to figure out what this means. And like, I don't
Mm.
understand. There's so many things out there. And I came across the work of Sonia Renee Taylor, The
Mm.
Body is Not an Apology. And I read that book
Mm.
and it was like a light bulb went off in my head because Sonia's work talks about body image, but also through the lens of like all these different identities, right? And it helped me understand like why my experience being a Black woman in the world and growing up in the Midwest where I was the only Black girl in my class and
Yeah.
I was 5'11" or 5'8" in the third grade. And like all of these
Mm.
things
Wow.
really impacted the way I felt about myself in the world. And her work just opened me up to the idea that like it's not just about your body, it's about all these intersecting identities, gender, race,
Yeah.
sexuality, disability, like all of these things, age, and all of these things and how they impact our ability to feel good in our bodies.
Mm. Damn.
I know. And that is so often our experience
Yeah.
that we're chasing something and we get there and we move the
That's
goalposts
it.
Yeah, yes.
for ourselves, or
Yeah.
we allow ourselves to realize that was never it.
It didn't even deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. This episode is part of a series we're doing called Wake Up Call, just kind of, beginning of the year. This one's about bodies. When people say they're waking up around their bodies, what do you hear most right underneath that realization?
Like with their light bulb moments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the light bulb moment is like the live diet culture, right? Is that once you get this ideal body, everything's gonna be better. You're gonna have the life of your dreams, the partner of your dreams. Like the sun is gonna be shining every day. You're gonna feel phenomenal. And I think what you really realize is that you're the same person you were,
Yeah.
just in a smaller
That's right.
body. And so all the things that are really under the surface are still there. And I think with weight loss, oftentimes it's like I always say it's like the low hanging fruit because when things
Mm.
feel out of control, it feels like this is the thing I can control. I can
That's a
control
good
my
point.
body. And so I even often talk about my own experience because once I like really healed my relationship with body image, then I was like, oh, actually the real issue is like all of these other things going
Mm.
on in my life, right? Which kind of
Mm.
led me to kind of blowing up my life. Not saying that's going to happen to other people, but I was like, oh, this was just like the thing that I could grasp onto.
Mm.
So I think that's a really big one. And I think another big awakening for people is that you start to realize that in so many ways, society has conditioned women in particular to put all of our value and effort and energy into being the smallest version of ourselves
For
possible.
sure.
And then you have that light bulb moment, right? And then you have to spend the second half of your life trying to unlearn all of those
That's
things.
right.
And so it's
That
like
is a
Right.
hard reversal.
yeah, it is. It's a very hard reversal. And so I think that also for me, there was like a lot of anger attached to that because I'm like, oh
Mm.
my gosh, all of these things have been lies intended to like keep me small. And now I have to try to unlearn it. And that's the hard part.
Boy, it really is. We're going to get into that some of that too, the work of that reversal. But I'd like to hear you talk a little bit more about the liberation portion of your work because this isn't just wellness and health. It's more than that. And there is something really profoundly important to learn about the intersection of white supremacy and wellness culture.
Yeah.
This is not just a gendered conversation aimed at women. It is also racist. And there are intersections here that really, really matter and affect the way that this wellness culture is operating in the world right now. So it's a very broad question, but when you say liberation, you mean it. And so can you talk a little bit about as you started peeling those layers back and going, well, what do we have here? Here we go. Well, it's white supremacy just in a different container.
Yes, absolutely. I love talking about this. I could talk about this
Yeah.
for the whole conversation. So, again, when I'm on this journey and I'm like learning and I'm reading books, I come across in the work of Dr. Sabrina Strings, Fearing the Black Body. And in that book, Dr. Sabrina Strings really breaks down like how this dehumanizations of fat bodies dates back to slavery, right? Because if we think about historically, like even in like ancient art history, we see these big, beautiful bodies being immortalized
Yeah.
and looked at as beautiful, right? So then it's like, how do we get from there to this point where like we're demonizing people in larger bodies? And so her work is phenomenal. I always recommend people read the book, but she talks and explains how in the time of slavery, right, there's this need to dehumanize certain types of people. And
Yeah.
so at that time, a lot of people who were enslaved were in larger bodies from working or from like hard labor and just like more muscular physiques even. And it became like you don't want to look like those type of people. And so like thin became the ideal way to look. And that is really the inception of diet culture, right? And it's this hierarchy of which bodies are more valuable, more beautiful, more deserving of respect. And so when we think about how all of us now are suffering because of this dehumanization of enslaved individuals and dating back to slavery, white supremacy, and racism, and it is impacting all of us in these very big ways, you know, hundreds of years later. And I think that that correlation is really important because, you know, when we talk about white supremacy, obviously we talk about how it hurts marginalized people the most, but it's actually hurting all of us, right?
Of
And so
course.
when we think about liberation, when we liberate the most marginalized among us, we are fighting for liberation for all of us. And I think
That's
about
right.
this in so many realms that like things that we are suffering from today, like healthcare, for example. We don't have healthcare in this country because when universal healthcare was an option, they did not want Black people to have access to healthcare. And now we are all suffering from the same thing.
That's
When
right.
it comes to the same thing with like higher education. So it's like all of these things have their roots in racism and white supremacy. And though like there are benefits, like, you know, we could talk about white privilege, like the benefits that exist for white privilege, but at the same time, there are so many harms that are actually
That's right.
bigger than all those privileges that people are experiencing.
That's right.
And so when we talk about liberation, none of us are free unless all of us are free.
Yeah.
And so even the body conversation, like, yes, I don't even consider it a small part because I think that demonizing of fat bodies is one of the most acceptable forms of harm to people still today, right? Like by and large, people are fatphobic in ways all the time. The world is actually catered to thinness, and we just say that's acceptable because, well, you know, get with the program. And so and then we think about being a larger body person and maybe being in a Black or brown body or being in a trans body or being a disabled body. It's just layers upon layers upon layers of marginalization. And it all goes back to racism. It all goes back to white supremacy.
It's just the rotten river that kind of fed all the tributaries.
Yes.
And it's just really true. And the data is unambiguous that oppression, racial oppression, gender, all of it is a net negative for an entire culture, period. Like there are, of course, the crumbs of privilege and people are happy to make that their feast. For their whole lives. But the possibility of just elevation for an entire culture depends on every single demographic having the same amount of dignity, access, equality, and equity. So even if you have a black heart, no feeling at all in your heart, just look at the data. Just look at the data. This is what happens.
I've been so enmeshed in wellness culture, just trying to like sort of solve some complicated health problems over the past 20 years. And sadly, I did not realize kind of the rotten fruit until I saw the effects on public health.
Oh, yeah.
Like the war on public health from the wellness culture. And then I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like I was incredibly privileged to learn from that wellness movement, and it did help me in some ways, but it was not worth the cost at all. So it's just like layer by layer, like understanding the full breadth of consequences.
Great point.
Through all of this. I would love to hear your thoughts on the body positivity movement, its actual origins, and what happened, because we have elevated that. We've been having conversations about it. On the surface, it looks good and helpful for everybody, but again, there's another side to the coin.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when I was like kind of sorting through my own body image stuff, like body positivity was like the first thing that I came to. And so for that in that respect, I will say that it brings people to the conversation that maybe I can look at my body as more than just like an ornament of decoration. So I think that current day body positivity has still that positive effect. It can start to lead people towards the right direction. However, when we talk about body positivity and mainstream body positivity, it's really been co-opted because the original body positivity movement was started by fat black and brown women because they didn't see themselves represented in mainstream media and ideas of beauty and beauty standards. And also the original movement had its roots in social justice. It wasn't just about like, can I look and feel good in my body? It's also like this idea of social justice that all bodies deserve dignity and respect and access and all of these things, right? And then along the way, it became more popularized, commercialized, and in a lot of ways, if we look at the hashtag body positivity on Instagram now, it's a lot of like thinner or medium-sized white women talking about embracing their cellulite or embracing their stretch marks or, I love my body. And I think that one part of the conversation that we don't have enough is that there's a very big distinction between having a personal body image issue, i.e., I don't like my cellulite, I don't like my stretch marks, I don't like whatever, the fat rolls here, there. And most of us have those things that we can come to and think about, right? That is very different than living in a body that is systemically oppressed.
Yes.
And so I think that's where we lose the messaging, right? So it's not like we don't want people to feel good in their bodies. Absolutely. And also, having stretch marks does not lead to systemic oppression in the world, right?
That's right.
And so I think that there's this lack of understanding in the modern commercialized co-opted version of body positivity. And there's a hyper focus on like self-love. Like if I just love myself, everything will be fine. And listen, I am a big proponent of self-love. I talk about this in the book. I think falling in love with yourself is the most beautiful love story of all time. I mean that to the core. And also, loving yourself does not protect you from experiencing harm in the world.
That's right.
And so the focus can't just be like, do I feel good in my body? The focus is, does anybody, however their body presents, are they able to feel safe and respected and exist in their body free of harm? And that's what we have to be focusing on. And that's what the modern body positivity movement is really missing, in my opinion.
Ooh, those are deep waters.
Yeah.
Those are really, really deep waters. And that is a different lift to carry than just how do you just feel in your individual white lady body or your body that isn't going to automatically put you in harm's way. Like that work is heavier and harder and longer and slower. And that is what you're putting your hand to, which is amazing. I want to go back to something you touched on earlier. You have said that a lot of the wellness culture in general, and at this point, it's hard to even know how to define that. It's just, maybe it started here, but now it's just all over the place. But it's largely built on shame. Now, it's not packaged like that. That's not its front-facing like quality, but that's what's under it. And so it uses the language of care, but its fuel is shame. I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about that, because it can be really hard to recognize just for an average person who's just like Amy was saying a second ago, she hooked into wellness culture or whatever because she had some serious issues with her health, like really trying to get to the bottom of a bunch of stuff. And so it can be super dangerous if you are really looking to take good care of your body and all of a sudden you inadvertently start mainlining shame. And then sorting that out is really hard.
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing I will say is the wellness industry is $1 trillion+ industry. And I always say, who is it really making well? And I think when you talk about people come to wellness most often, right? Because they're not feeling good in their bodies. That could be physically, it could be like mentally, like they don't feel good. And so it's like, I need to figure this out. And first off, there's just so much noise in the wellness industry, right? There's so many people telling you what you need to do.
Oh my
You
God.
need to eat like this. You need to take this supplement. You need to do this thing. You need to like wake up and take a cold shower. Like all of these things. And you're
So
like,
much.
I'm overwhelmed.
Yes.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So people are constantly trying to find the thing because they want to feel better, which we all want to feel better. And everyone's selling you this solution, right? Like if you just take this, you're going to feel better. And then you have to take this thing, you have to feel better. So number one, we have highly, highly capitalized on this idea of wellness culture. And first off, who has access to that, for one?
Yeah.
That's the first
great
part
question.
part of that. And then the second part of that is like, oh, like buying a powder is not the thing that's actually probably going to solve the health issue or the wellness issue. And I don't blame people for buying all the potions and powders and supplements because you're just trying to figure this out and no one is really helping you in a way that feels like I have answers. And then the other thing I will say about wellness culture is this idea that like we can buy our way into health, and instead of focusing on the social determinants of health, which are things like access to healthcare, access
Totally.
to food, access
gosh.
to safe housing, access to quality education,
Completely.
we want to like sell people on like we're the bandages, like we're going to fix all of these things without saying actually it's hard to be well if a society does not meet people's basic needs, and we have to start with people's basic needs because that will affect all of those other health metrics anyways. And one of the things we kind of touched on this a little bit, but like when it comes to health and wellness, like and how the attack on public health, racism is a public health issue, and there's so many studies that show that experiencing racism or just the idea that you're going to experience racism in the world leads to higher levels of blood pressure and heart disease and higher levels of cancer and all these things. So it's like we're trying to fix band-aid approaches instead of just saying, let's look at the systemic issues and make sure everybody's basic needs are met and wonder what that would do for you. And I just always think it's so interesting when people have this conversation about like, oh, I went to Europe for 2 weeks and I lost 20 pounds or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, also because you were like able to relax, you were able to rest, your nervous system was calm, right?
You're so right.
Like there's all these factors. And I think about this too. We live in the US in particular, we are living under constant stress, stress, right? And I think even now with all the things happening with ICE and everything happening in Minneapolis, our nervous systems are constantly on high alert. Real. And so it's like when you're talking about I want to feel well, like it's really difficult to even try to address your health issues when nothing feels safe and you don't feel safe in your body.
Oh my God.
I know.
Right? There's nothing wrong with like we're not doing this wrong. We're constantly like how we're so dysregulated, we are so anxious, we are not sleeping well.
Yes.
We are afraid. And so it feels like crazy to be like, so maybe I should eat more protein.
Yeah, that's gonna fix it. I need more protein. That'll fix it.
Right.
And that's the thing though, but this is again goes back to white supremacy, is because white supremacy teaches you that the onus is on you and that if something is not right, it's your fault. And and it wants us to feel like it's our fault instead of acting like, actually, I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances that I'm living in. And it's not my problem. It's the systemic problems that are fueling so much of the reasons I don't feel well.
Also, the discussion right now about how this is making us feel in our bodies, our blood pressure, like how this is affecting our health. It is so uncomfortable and also so helpful when Black and brown voices say, this is what we felt like in this country.
Yeah.
That's right.
Since the beginning.
Right. Like it may be new for you people.
Right.
But this is just the next iteration of it in a long line.
It was always going to come to this.
Yeah.
It was always
when white women start talking about their blood pressure because of the news. Which is a hard pill for us to swallow, quite frankly.
Yeah, it is a hard pill to swallow. And I do think it's an important conversation because, again, it's like when people go on social media and say, how did we get here? And we're like, knock, knock, knock.
Yeah. Hi.
It's always been here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that people, like, especially in the US, we have this really good ability to forget history and to rewrite history. And it's like, we are living in a country that's on stolen land built by stolen people, right? And that's how we got to where we are. Like, it doesn't
It's not confusing.
It's not confusing. And I think that everything that is happening is tragic and it's terrible and like all the things. And also, I hope that it's waking people up to realize again that ultimately your whiteness cannot protect you from fascism. It can't protect you from authoritarian government. And although like those things did not impact you before, they are going to impact every single one of us. And it is our responsibility to say, oh, I'm not going to wait till it knocks at my front door. I'm going to make sure that when I see these things happening, I'm going to step up in whatever capacity I can to say, no, actually, this is not okay.
Yeah. You talk a lot about consent as a body practice, and about how powerlifting helped you relate to your body through capacity rather than appearance. So what does that look like for midlife women? We talk about this constantly on this show. How can we redefine strength when productivity and endurance no longer tell the whole story?
Yeah.
Yes. This idea of consent is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about myself, for so long, I looked at like exercise and strength. I actually didn't even look at strength. I just looked at exercise as a means of punishment to my body to keep it small. When I started powerlifting, and because also like I always had this narrative growing up that like I'm just not a strong person. Like, oh well, like I don't need to be strong. Other people can be strong. Strength is a skill just like any other skill. So when I started lifting weights, I was like, oh wow, this is actually really cool. I feel really capable. I feel like I can do hard things that I thought I could not do. I feel really like strong in my body. I felt more safe in my body, honestly. Like I'm like, wow, I feel good. I feel grounded in my body. And I think it's so interesting because no one in my family expected me to start powerlifting. Like they're like, what are you talking? Like you of all people. And so it's like it became such a transformative thing for me. But then I think it was really transformative, like even for the women, my sister and my mom, to see that like, oh, you know what, maybe I can do this. And my mom, who is 69, I finally started her going to a gym, to the trainer that I used to go to when I lived in Wisconsin, at 67. And
oh my gosh,
now she's lifting weights and she's, you know, using dumbbells and using barbells. And I think when I think about everything that is happening politically, I always say that like this sharp return to diet culture and thinness culture and extreme thinness culture is absolutely 100% connected to what is happening politically in the world. And they want women to be hyper-focused on their bodies and being the smallest and thinnest version of themselves, because when you are underfed, undernourished, you don't have any energy or strength or capacity to fight the real things happening in the world, even to be aware of the real things happening in the world.
Right. You're too distracted.
You're too distracted. You don't have, and also like, I think that people don't always understand that when you are under eating, your brain is actually not fueled properly. Like there's a drastic difference. When I was under eating and over exercising, I was in like a constant brain fog.
Totally.
And it's like you actually don't realize till you're out of it that like, oh, actually I wasn't even thinking straight. I didn't have the capacity. I didn't have the energy. And just to feel like when I walk down the street, I feel like, you know what? I think that if something happened to me, I know that I have some fight in me, you know?
Yeah.
And so even just that part of being like, yeah, I have some fight in me. And I think as I just turned 40, and so as I'm edging towards midlife, it's like also, I think that we sometimes forget just like the utility of having bone density and strong bones and strong health. And so it's so much bigger than like, oh, what do I look like? That's actually not even important to me anymore. It's like, how do I feel in my body?
I wonder, like, just by virtue of giving us an example, what does your practice look like now? Like, you have done so much like mental renovation, which has turned into a different way of living and caring for your body and thinking about your body and just all of it. And so I'm curious, what has gone? You're like, that's a no more for me.
Yes.
This is what I've onboarded. Like, so in a given, day or week or whatever, this is what this looks like now.
Absolutely.
For you.
Absolutely. I used to be working in, as much as I love powerlifting, it was a combination of me loving it. And also I knew that I could like control my body. It was like both, right? So I was spending 3 hours a day in the gym. I can't even fathom.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm not joking. I'm talking about 3 hours a day, 6 days a week.
That is insane.
It's ridiculous. I can't even fathom. I could not bring myself to do that today. Like
my brain's broken.
And mine was broken when I was doing it. Trust me.
Yeah.
So it was like exercising was the most important thing in my life. And I would literally, it controlled my social life. Like
it must have.
It had to. Like, so it's like, if I had to, I remember times I was working my corporate job and I like something really important would be happening at night. Like I remember my nephew's like 5-year-old graduation was in the evening. I'm like, great. That's the time I have to go to the gym. What am I going to do? I made a doctor's appointment with my at work so that I could go to the gym because I'm like, I can't miss my workout. Like
Oh
that's
my
how intense it
gosh.
was for me. And that's obviously not a healthy relationship with
So
exercise. That's not how
intense.
it's supposed to be. So anyways, now what my life looks like is that number one, I feel so much more in tune with my body and I've learned to trust my body again. And
Yeah.
so it's like I can also listen to my body.
Mm.
And so some days I wake up and I'm like, you know what? The only thing I have into me today is a nice walk outside. And so
Yeah.
that's what that is.
Yeah.
And some days I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to move some weight today. And so I
Mm.
go to the gym and move some weight. But that looks like
Mm.
45 minutes, not 3
Yeah.
hours, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I'm achy. I just need to do me some mobility work. And so it's really a practice of like what feels good in my body.
Mm.
Honoring like the fact that like I'm always going to love strength training. I think I'm always going to view
Mm.
strength training as important for like my own personal overall health. I'm not saying that for other people. That's for me.
Sure.
And so that usually looks like strength training 2 to 3 times a week for 30 to 45 minutes. Long leisure walks because that calms my nervous system.
Yep.
When I'm feeling anxious, when I'm feeling stressed, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to go outside and breathe some fresh air.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think it's more of knowing what's best for me and like not ever coming from a place of like, again, shame or guilt, or I need to work these calories off. And from a place of like, what brings
Mm.
me joy and what's going to help me feel good in my body today. And what's going to help
So
me feel
good.
grounded in my body today as well.
Mm.
All of these really intentional choices you've made,
Yeah.
like to feel whole in your body, to accept yourself, so you can continue doing this work. There's still always a cost to our choices. What do you think listening to your body cost you? But also, what has it given back to you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this question
Yeah.
because inevitably, when you stop working out 3 hours a day and you stop counting every single thing that you're eating, your body
Yeah.
is going to change. That's just the truth.
Yep.
And so my body has changed. And I think that had when it was in the like when I was still in the early stages of that was a little jarring to see because you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
is different than what it was, like
Sure.
my muscles aren't as hard as they were before, they're not as present as they were, like all of these different changes that you have. But then slowly over time I realized like also my body's changed and I'm still totally fine. Like,
Totally.
and in fact I feel a lot better, I feel a lot more
Yeah.
grounded, my mental health is better,
Yeah.
my relationship with food is better. My relationship with exercise
Mm.
is better. I am not obsessing about all of these things anymore. I have my brain back. I have my life back. I have my
Yeah.
creative capacity back. Like I gained so much more. And in those moments where, again, I don't know anybody who doesn't have these moments. Like, an iPhone will pop up with your memory from like 10 years ago and you look at yourself 10 years
Sure.
ago like, oh shit, wow, look
Yeah.
at that body 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there can be this moment where you're like, oh man, I wish I still looked like this, or oh, maybe I should work back towards that. And for
Mm.
me, in those moments, I always remind myself of what I had to do to maintain that body.
That's right.
And I don't want to go back to that,
Mm.
And I think that the more I have detached from diet culture and come to a place of like real, like truthful, like acceptance and that the fact that number one, your body is always going to be changing because it's supposed to be changing. It's designed to
Yeah.
change. Like
Yep.
we're supposed to age. If we're not aging, we're dead. Like, like
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
have this hyper fixation on trying to stay at this particular point in time, and our
Mm.
bodies were not designed to stay at any point in time. So bodies
That's
change
good.
because of age, because of chronic illness, because of a pregnancy, because of any of the myriad of things that can happen. And I think that we have to accept that what our abilities are today, what our bodies look like today, is what it looks like today, and tomorrow could be completely different.
That's so good.
And bodies are designed to change.
That's great.
And so like that's something that I'm always reminding myself of too, which is really hard in a society that tells us you got to go get a facelift, you got to go get this, you got to go get that.
Yeah.
Like I think I talk about this a lot on my Substack. It's like, Kris Jenner has a facelift. I'm like, but why is someone 70 supposed to look 40? They're not actually, like, we're
Yeah.
not supposed to look 40 when we're 70. And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to put that pressure on myself to feel like my body is supposed to look the same as when I was 20. It's supposed to be able to
Mm.
move the same as when I was 20.
Oh my gosh.
Like all of these things are very transient. They're never going to be stable. And so I just think it's this conscious practice of coming back to this place of like, this is the body I have today. These are the abilities I have today. And how can I honor and respect that today?
Mm. My gosh. I remember sitting across from my doctor at some point in my 40s, and we were just sort of going through the traps, like where's my blood pressure at? What's my weight at? All this stuff. And I was telling her, I'm like, well, I gave her this goal weight I'm like, I just don't know if I can get. And I remember her looking at me going, where on earth did you get that number? And I was like, well, that is what I weighed in my 20s. So I know that my body can weigh that weight. And she was like, what you were saying right now is crazy. And she was like, you would have to starve yourself to be at that weight and then stay starved.
Yes.
To maintain it. And that is a ridiculous number. And I don't know, I cannot believe you've been holding that number hostage all these years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm just not going to be the weight I was when I got married. And it was like a light bulb went over my head. She was like, that's not appropriate for you anymore. Like that is an inappropriate goal. And I was like, oh my God, I can release this number. I have held this number in my fist for 20 years. And it felt so good to release it. I want to talk, speaking of doctors, you talk about boundaries in terms of protecting your health. And you slot them in several categories. Social media boundaries, my God. Boundaries with sometimes your friends and family, if that is appropriate, even boundaries with your doctor. And so this is one of those spaces I think women are still timid about, or where our literacy is still low. So can you talk about a few just little toggle switches maybe that we can make in those various spaces and relationships, to push us toward a healthier version of ourselves, not just a smaller version of ourselves.
Yes. And also, like, kudos to your doctor for being like, let that go, please. Like,
oh my God.
You don't need to carry that anymore.
She was like, girl, you're crazy.
It's so freeing to let that go. When it comes to doctor, I think we can be really timid sometimes. I think there are certain things that may perhaps be a trigger for some people. One of those things for me has always been like the number on the scale.
Yep.
So when I go to the doctor now, I tell the nurse, like, I'm going to turn around backwards. I don't want to know the number. I don't want to see it. And I don't want you to tell me. Also, you can even go a step farther than that. You can tell your doctor you don't want to be weighed because you actually don't have to be weighed.
Sure.
So you can just say, no, thank you. I'm going to pass. I've never done it because I don't know why. I just say, like, I don't want to see it and, like, I don't need to hear about it. And they've always respected that.
That's good.
But yeah, you can also just say, like, I don't want to be weighed. You can also be really upfront with your doctor, which I have done this before. After, like, one time I had a doctor who had been with me for a while, and it was like after I had, stopped over exercising and all of those things, and I definitely had gained some weight. And so she's like, it looks like you've gained some weight over the past couple of years, and like, let's check in about that. And I was like, actually, I don't want to check in about that. I feel great. I'm like, my panels are great. I feel great. Like, I don't want to check in about weight. So I don't want to have a conversation. And it's like, you can just tell them, I don't want to talk about that, Yeah. And so, and she was like, okay, cool. I understand. But yeah, like your doctor is your service provider, and you don't have to adhere to conversations that you don't want to have. And also, if your doctor does not respect you, you can find another doctor.
You are so right.
I think it's so important to feel like you have a doctor that understands you, that will listen to you and will respect your wishes. And if you don't have that, find someone that you feel like will do that. Yeah.
That's so good. How many times do we sit in a doctor's office and feel like a little child, and they are in charge, and we don't get a say, and we don't get to resist any of that? I am not good at that. I am not good at what you just said.
It's a practice.
It is.
And I think even a small practice can just be like, I don't want to see the number on the scale. And that can feel like a lot to say. But start with that and build your confidence,
I'm so good.
And often I'm at the doctor for a sick visit. So I already feel bad.
Right.
Like going back to public health and healthcare access, we don't often go to we're supposed to go once a year for a well check. But if you're only having these conversations once a year.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're only there once a year when you feel well. Then that's not enough time to practice having these conversations.
Yeah, that's why that was a good low-hanging fruit. Like,
if you're sick every other time you go in, you're already vulnerable. You're not you're not thinking well. Like the whole system. Oh.
Yep.
You name grief as a necessary part of body liberation. The grief of years spent trying to fix ourselves and shrinking and obsessing. What kind of grief do midlife women need permission to mourn when it comes to their bodies?
Oh my gosh. I think grief around your body is something that we don't talk about enough. Because as I kind of spoke to, like when I saw my body changing, I'm like, oh, that's not the body I'm used to seeing in the mirror. And I think it's like, kind of like silly almost to not acknowledge that sometimes that does feel hard to look at your body changing. When you talk about like aging, to look at your face and be like, oh, I don't remember this looking like this before. Or I don't remember my hair feeling like you just one day you just wake up and things start feeling a little bit different. You're like, I don't remember that. And that feels really jarring sometimes. I think there's also this thing to happen is that like as you get older, you feel less visible in the world. And that feels weird. You're like, hello, like I don't understand. And so I think that like it's the grief of saying I'm acknowledging and feeling like a disconnect because I feel like I'm losing something, even though maybe I'm not actually losing something. I feel like I'm losing a version of myself that I used to know.
Yeah.
And I think that there has to be space to mourn that. There has to be space to say, you know what, the world is really messed up, and people do treat you better in a smaller body. People do treat you better when you appear younger. Like those are real things. And I think we also have to acknowledge that. Like, as much as I feel comfortable in my body and all of these things, I do also recognize that the world will treat you different based on what you look like. There is social capital that is assigned to looks and to beauty standards, and that is very real.
And to race.
And to race, of course. Like, and even when I talk to beauty standards, like, what is the beauty standard, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
exactly.
race and gender and sex, all those things play in, and like, there is social capital assigned to that. And so, when you are saying like I'm not playing the games because I don't feel good when I'm playing the game, you also have to say okay, or recognize okay, and also I'm probably letting go of some like privilege and capital that I had that was assigned to that previous version of myself. And I do think it's so important to acknowledge that, which is why I always say, like, as anti-diet culture as I am and I always will be, I never ever judge people for choosing whatever they do with their bodies, because the thing, again, we don't talk about enough is that the more marginalized identities you have, the harder it is to exist in the world. And if weight loss feels like the one thing that will allow you to receive better treatment in the world, who am I to tell you, like, don't do that? And so I think we have to be able to hold this understanding and compassion that it is very difficult for certain people to exist. And there's so much, like, we could talk about this all day because there's like actual data around when you're in a larger body, you're less likely to get a promotion, you're less likely to get hired, all of these real implications. And so it's like, I also understand that.
Yeah.
And so I don't have anything, but I never have judgment for people. I have compassion, I have understanding, and I recognize that people are making the choices that feel best for them in that moment.
That's so generous.
Going back to liberation movement and how no one's liberated unless everyone is. This is circuitous, but I'll get back to it. I saw a post. I wish I knew who it was, but it was on social media a couple of days ago of like a hospital dietitian who was leading a conference. And some of the feedback was they had patients, these nurses and dietitians had patients who were dying, but were talking about how flat their stomachs were.
Oh, boy.
And then the comments on this post were like, my grandma who has dementia is so happy because she's thin, she doesn't realize she's dying.
My God.
And people who worked at ice cream stores who said, like, the 80-year-olds never choose what they really want because they're worried about their weight.
Oh, that's so sad.
Like, just this culture of, especially I think, like our moms, that generation still, like, up until the day they die, being obsessed with their weight and flat stomachs. And how this liberation movement can serve them to let go of it, and then what they could be doing with their time, with their energy when they're not thinking about it. But so I had been mulling on that for a couple of days and imagining what it would be like if I just released all of this and spent that time towards liberation. But then something in your book, at the end, you talk about no one should ever want to shrink themselves. You should not spend time shrinking them yourself unless it is appropriate to shrink yourself in order to allow other voices to come forward. So then it's this sort of thing, especially with the majority in this country, white ladies in this country, to work on liberating ourselves, but then also have the wherewithal to, even though we are gaining more in that, to intentionally step back and allow other voices forward. Yeah. Can you talk more about that and what you were discussing in your book?
Yeah. Everything you said was just really beautiful. I think one of the things that makes me so sad, like really, really makes me so sad, is when I witness people like in their 80s, in their 90s, still talking about weight loss, still talking about not eating what they want to eat because they might gain weight. It literally makes me so, so sad, because I'm like, our time here on earth is limited, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's for all of us. We don't know. None of us know how long we have. But like when you're in your 80s and your 90s, you realize that you're moving towards end of life, right? And it's like, I think it's just, it breaks my heart, honestly, to think that in those last years of your life, you were still thinking about having a flat stomach. You're still thinking about, oh, I can't eat the ice cream that I really want because I might gain weight. And the thing that is like so heartbreaking about that to me is that when we are on our deathbed, the thing that people remember about us is not if we had flat abs,
Of course not.
if we had a six pack. They think about the memories that we shared, the laughs that we created, the beautiful relationship that we had. And I think about even that when it comes to food, like food, we've been so conditioned to think of food as just like fuel. And yes, of course it fuels our bodies, but like food is also how we build community, how we have shared memories. It's like how we share our love. And so that makes me really, really sad that I just want to be like not shake person, but like snap out of it. Yes. Like enjoy your time here on earth, right? But also that goes to show how deeply ingrained diet culture is in our lives.
Totally.
And of course, like our parents' generation, that is even worse. But this also makes me so worried about future generations, because I feel like we are reiterating the same things over and over now with the help of social media. Totally. And it's like, how do we break the cycle, like once and for all, so that people aren't spending the entirety of their lives focusing on this. And then some people, like I said earlier, you spend the first half of your life focusing on the second half of unlearning, but some people never even get to the unlearning phase. So it's like, how do we do that? How do we reach more people and help them understand? So that's one part. But then when you spoke to later, I think it's so important when I talk about you never should shrink yourself. And then I say, unless right, there are moments where you can say, as a white woman, this is not actually the time for me to become the teacher in this moment. Right. And I think about this all the time, like books about white supremacy, for example. And like I always say, like Robin DiAngelo and White Fragility, I think there's a lot of wonderful information in that book, but everything you learn about white supremacy and racism, you learn from Black women. And when white women become the voice, the teacher, the expert on a matter like white supremacy or racism, you are actually enacting white supremacy and racism in that moment, because the reason people feel more comfortable listening to you is because in their mind, whiteness means like you're more of an expert, or you're more experienced, if you have more understanding. So it's like you are actually enacting the thing that you say that you are against when you become the expert. When there are Black and brown women have been talking about and teaching and you have learned from the entirety of your life, like those are the people that you need to be amplifying in those moments. So I love when people come to these understandings and say, oh my gosh, I need to share this information with people. And absolutely, I think it is a responsibility to be talking to your family members, talking to your friends, and then also point those people to the people that you've learned from, because those are the voices that should be elevated in those moments. And I think that sometimes there's a mix of being like overzealous, and then there's a time where you're just like so used to being the center of conversations that you feel like you deserve to be the center of the conversation. And I think that's the work that, like, going beyond just like how am I unlearning white supremacy, it's also how am I unlearning acting in white supremacy in my life. And that's the thing that I think people have to like be able to recognize and understand, that there are Black and brown people doing this work, that have been doing this work, and those are the people that should be the experts. Those are the people that should be compensated. I just think there's really something weird about being a white woman talking about anti-racism and racism and making substantial money talking about unlearning something that you are actively benefiting from. Like there's a big disconnect there.
It's true. And this is broad. What you're saying right now, this has tendrils across so many other conversations and spaces, and issues, systemic issues. Like, this is so real. One of my good friends leads this huge anti-racism movement, and she's black, and she's got this rule. I learned this from her.
Yeah.
This rule, there's this huge private online space, and hers is kind of at the intersection of white supremacy and the church. So that was kind of her specific aim, but it's broader than that, of course. But anyway, her rule inside the private Facebook group is, if you are white, you are not allowed to say one word in here. You can't make a post, and you cannot comment on a post for 3 months. Not one. Not, we will moderate it right the hell out of here. And it's so interesting because white people have been centered their entire life. I mean, there's never been a moment a white person has not been centered. And so watching that discomfort is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But at the end of those 3 months of mandatory silence, it's interesting how that tenderizes people. And because they've had to be quiet and learn from the Black and brown voices in the community, the net gain on that is so real and genuine and deeper and longer lasting. It's fascinating. I have one more question for you. We'll wrap it up because you have a life. You have a life to get to in Brooklyn. God, you're just living the dream. You really are. You're living. You know you are. You know you are. Okay. I think I'd love to bring this back to a community, a larger community of women. That's primarily who you serve, us too. Women make up the majority of whoever's listening to us. So I would just like to hear your thoughts on how you envision women supporting one another. Like, how do we link arms here without just duplicating the same body hierarchies and weird judgments and diet rules and all the things that that was the air we breathed for decades. And so how do we support each other in like body wellness and health without making it weird again?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think, well, first off, I will say that I think whenever we're trying to be in community with anyone, there's always going to be issues, right? And I think that we have to recognize, acknowledge, and even going back to what you said about this group is like, we have to be able to sit with the discomfort of all that requires.
Yep.
And anytime you are in community, there are going to be things that come up. You have to constantly be checking yourself. Other people have to constantly be checking themselves. And you also have to be open to conflict and having open and honest conversations about, hey, this is the misstep. And, oh, I misstepped in this way. And you have to be open and willing to also say, oh, I messed up, and I'm not going to sit in shame and judgment and self-deprecation. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do better.
Great.
And also recognizing that none of us ever get to a place where we are done learning. I'm learning something new every single day. I'm figuring out, oh, I didn't even think about this thing all the time. There's never a point at which you're like, oh, I've arrived and I've checked that off the box. So I think it's really, in order to be in a place of true community, I think about this with my close friend circles. It's like, we are able to have difficult conversations with each other because we have to have difficult conversations with each other in order to get to a place like that we want to be. And so we have to understand that, for one. And I think also we have to be able to, I spoke to this already a little bit, but like, no one is the expert. I'm not the expert. You're not the expert. None of us are the experts, right? And none of us know all the things. And so it's like, can we learn from each other? Can we stop the judgment? And I talk about this so much, and like in the body realm, but then like other concepts and things I'm talking about is like, oftentimes I feel like we are having these like debates with people. Like, one of the things I see online all the time, because I consume a lot of like child-free content, is like this back and forth between women with children, women without children. And oftentimes we are just projecting on each other our own insecurities about our own things, right? And it's like, I think that we have to be able to step back and also recognize that misogyny is working so well, it's working on us. Right?
Totally.
Because we
My
are arguing
gosh.
with each other about things that actually aren't the issue, that, again, always the systemic issues. And so it's
right.
like we have to be able to recognize that all of this conditioning is internalized in this program, and we have to be able to step back and say, this is working. Us arguing with each other is working exactly how the patriarchy wants it to work.
Yep. Perfect.
You know?
Oh my gosh. That's so good. Oh,
Obviously we could talk about this all day, every day.
My brain has still got 40 questions, and I'm like, no, you're going to have to just sit with it.
Your voice is so valuable.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
In these conversations. Where can our community find you and engage in your work?
Yep.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. I've had so much fun talking to you. I also feel like I could talk to you for more hours for the rest of the day. So on Substack, it's the Liberation Collective. I talk and write about these things in detail. On Instagram, it's I am Chrissy King. TikTok, it's I am Chrissy King. But honestly, I'm still engaging with social media, but like not at the capacity that I was before.
Yep.
And so if you're really interested in like digging into the work, I suggest finding me on Substack.
Right on.
Yeah.
That is it. That's such a wonderful, safer place
Yes.
to host important conversations these days.
Yeah.
Socials are just not what they used to be at all.
No.
So I love that. We will 100% link all of our community over to that space for you. Thank you for your labor over there to continually push this boulder up the hill. That is work, and it's not easy work, and it has a lot of resistance. And so we deeply honor your commitment to not just this work, but even to your own self, that you have allowed yourself to grow and evolve and change. And that's such a marvelous example for the rest of us to get to watch. And so well done you. Okay. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
great
both.
to meet you.
Yes.
And thank you for your book,
Yeah.
The Body Liberation Project.
Oh, yeah. We'll link to that too, you guys.
Yes,
Don't worry.
we were talking so much, I completely forgot about that. Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, we're going to.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I learned so much. And again, your voice is valuable.
Yeah, it is.
And like people go
Yep.
buy her book.
Buy her book.
You've got services and products, and they're important.
Yep, they sure are.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Thank you for joining us today. I actually really appreciated all the dimension of this conversation today. That it's just not the one note body shame conversation, but it included the broader implication of this entire discussion, which actually has to be addressed if we're going to get to the root of any of it.
Right. It's all. There's always been an intersection of all of it.
That's right.
And it's not going to get better unless it gets better for everybody.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to be thinking about so many things she said
Me
for
too.
so long.
Do you know what I'm going to be thinking about so much? Her sitting in that car with her sad sandwich.
I know.
Like
At the water park.
at the water park when everybody else was in a restaurant to enjoy their delicious food. And I'm just like, there it is. What a great visual example of how draining and lonely and exhausting that narrative is.
Yeah.
But back to your point, these have always existed at the intersections of racism and gender and misogyny and white supremacy and body. And so it just feels really important to have guests on who help us look at this really holistically.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll get to the root of it instead of band-aiding it, like she said.
Right. Like waking up, for us, waking up is critical.
Yep.
But we have to wake up all of it.
That's right. Or it's fake. Yeah.
Or it's
incomplete.
It's incomplete. And our goal is to do this in wholeness.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I could not say it any better than that. Everybody, we want you to be under Chrissy's leadership and teaching and work. And so over at jenhatmaker.com under the podcast tab, first of all, we'll have this episode if you'd like to share it, because this is a good sharer. And then we will gather all of Chrissy's things for you. Her social handles, certainly her Substack space, which is where she locates obviously most of her work, and her book, which is such a fantastic resource. If you are interested in not just tackling the idea of body wellness and care, but from a holistic lens. This is a great resource for you. You can also leave a message for us. As you know, there's a send voicemail button over there, and you just hit it. Tell us whatever you want to tell us. Maybe about this episode, something you heard, or the way that you are processing it, or it could be really about anything you want. And we, first of all, listen to all those. And second of all, we gather a lot of those messages and create listener submitted episodes, which we love and you love. So you could end up on the show. Anyway, that's it, you guys. We really feel excited about the Wake Up series. And we hope that we are approaching these conversations from the widest lens possible. That is the most true and the most useful and ultimately the most productive. And so we have more to come in this series, and we hope you love it as much as we do. All right. See you next week.
Thank y'all.